Battalion 252, Battalion 202, Engine 256, Engine 251, Engine 215, ladder 255, channel 2. Smoke and flame showing Wade and Jasper and Gilbert.
Hi, I'm Vance Gray, Assistant Fire Chief with the Gilbert Fire Department. Today I'm going to talk to you and introduce to you a new business practice that we have institutionalized here in the town of Gilbert and the Gilbert Fire Department. What this is it's challenging the fire department to come up with a new way of doing business to serve our citizens better. In the fire service, it's all about the quicker we respond, the faster fires go out, and the quicker people get to hospitals to get the medical attention they need. This is our challenge, and it's always been our challenge. How do we do it? What we did is we established a partnership between the town of Gilbert, Franklin Covey, and the Gilbert Fire Department. This is a new business process. In this process, you're going to hear some terms like lead measure and WIG, or wildly important goal. We'll get to those things in a little bit. But essentially, what these are, it's a way of taking our behaviors and our actions of what we're doing today and changing them so that we better serve our citizens. In this video, you're going to hear from some of our members, and our members are going to talk about actions or behaviors that they've put in place enabling us to achieve our goal. So, what's a lead measure? A lead measure is essentially a behavior or an action that takes us to our wildly important goal. So what is our WIG? Well, let's let some of our people tell you.
Yeah, fire department's WIG was to reduce out of service time by 10% by June 30th of 2012.
Our WIG was to decrease out of service time by 10% by June 30th, 2012.
Our department's goal is to reduce out of service time by 10%.
Fire department WIG is to reduce out of service times by 10% by June 30th, 2012.
To reduce out of service time by 10%. We had a med call where we had an adolescent go through one of the two panes of a back sliding glass door of a house, and we took care of the patient, and he was a refusal. With the new WIG, we were able to go available on the radio without having to go back to the truck. We got another call for a close EMS call. We went and took care of that, and then we returned back to the customer's house to help continue cleaning up the mess. But it was the best thing for our customers with the new WIG.
As a battalion chief, our role to support the WIG was to understand it fully, understand that the impact it was going to have organizationally was going to be a long-term effect. And whenever you have a cultural shift, a cultural change, from an officer's perspective, you really have to know the nuts and bolts of it. And the opportunity we had as battalion chiefs to come together as one and get trained and deliver the training to our department was something that's never been done in my career, and that was a very positive thing that we went through. Supporting the WIG from there on out is making sure that our company officers and members understood it, that we supported it, provided the information, documentation, and letting them see the outcomes. Yeah, looking back from today to when we first started, it's a part of life. It's very natural for our troops to get on the radio and place themselves available. And there has not been an impact to service. As a matter of fact, it's allowed us to answer more calls.
Our WIG goal for the fire department was to decrease our out of service time by 10% by June 30th. You know, we talked about it as a crew just to kind of get an idea of why it was important to even have that kind of goal to begin with. And it came to a consensus that obviously it was very good for the community. It's good for us. I mean, from a standpoint is that, you know, if we're open, available to run more calls, that's what we love to do anyway. So that was kind of I guess an internal bonus for us. You know, we talked every morning. We went over the list of little goals that we would kind of need to meet to make the big goal work. So we broke ours down into 3. So every day at shift change, we would go over the 3 goals that we thought, that would be important for this set to kind of focus on. And we just did that throughout the whole session. We haven't really made any changes. We're just going to continue. I mean, it's something that obviously benefited everybody. So we're just going to continue. Now it just becomes normal. We're as cognizant of it, I guess, in the beginning. Now we're just going to continue on and wait for the next WIG.
This year in the training division, in addition to the regular complement of classes that we offer, we had quarterly live fire training in Tempe, as well as 2 regional fire academies that we were a part of and had to support in Mesa Fire. Some of the things that we did to support the WIG this year were, the scheduling on the front of it was the most important. Since we had to schedule multiple units in morning sessions and multiple units in afternoon sessions, it created a lag time where they'd be crossing paths. But to keep units in service, we made sure that we communicated with them to make sure that they understood that it was imperative that they kept the timeline intact, leaving when they were scheduled to leave, and coming back into town when they were scheduled to come back into town.
Our roles and responsibility within the resource division was to support the wildly important goal of the out-of-service time reduction by 10% by June 30th, was to deliver reserve apparatus to frontline trucks that were in need of required scheduled maintenance during our normal business hours. We, much like the fire department and the town as a whole, is a service organization, and we really took to heart what that meant. And our goals and aspirations were to serve our customers, and our customers within this was the guys and girls on the streets, and getting them the trucks that they need so that they were able to be in service more and reduce that out of service time. We had some great success stories that I could share, many of them with you, but I want to just allude to one of them. We were in process of delivering a reserve truck to engine 257 at their station. And it was during our normal business hours. We had plenty of time to do it. And under normal pre-Franklin Covey 4DX time, that truck would go out of service and drive down to the Southside Service Yard and have their maintenance done, get in a reserve truck, and then drive back up to their station. While we were en route to their station, they caught a call. And it was only because they were waiting for us that they were available and able to respond to that call and deliver the excellent customer service that I'm sure that they did. Our resource personnel were there waiting for them when they got back, facilitated the changeover. They were out of service for maybe less than 20 minutes and were able to get back in service and continue to be available for those calls. And that was really the main purpose of our wildly important goal, was to keep our frontline trucks in service in their first 2 areas.
Fire prevention assisted with the department goal of reducing out of service time by developing a lead measure that would put units available quicker and more often. Our lead measure was to inspect 50% of the buildings within the town of Gilbert, focusing on access and fire alarms. We knew that by updating Knox boxes with current emergency access keys along with contact information and verifying that the alarm systems had gotten their annual inspections, that this would help reduce out of service time. Our challenge was to get to 624 buildings before June 30th. We accomplished this by having weekly huddles to review our progress and make sure we were on track to meet our lead measure. By staying focused and having a cadence of accountability, we were able to meet our lead measure and exceed it by June 30th.
So what we did was, although we collect the data, we never have really extracted this type of data out of the CAD system. So what we did was we established what our benchmarks were going to be, and because we're dispatched by the city of Mesa, we had to work with them in order to extract the data and move it from the CAD system in Mesa into our records management system in Gilbert. It was an interesting process because as we started out talking to our partners in Mesa, they started looking at us and they weren't really sure where we were going, and quite honestly, we weren't at that point. But we got their attention, and once we started extracting the data and bringing it over from the CAD into our system, I think it started to paint a clearer picture for us as to what we were going to do and how we were going to do it and how we were going to measure and report the outcomes. As we went through this process, it actually caused a change in the regional dispatch center, and they began to see where we were headed and what effect it was going to have on our organization, and actually adopted some of the incident-based benchmarks, and those in fact have been implemented regionally. So where we really weren't sure where we were going on the front end and how we were actually going to do this from a reporting and data management standpoint, we actually had a more global impact. Our WIG did, not only on this organization, but our partners have actually adopted this in the region. And so hopefully they'll be able to do the same measurements that we are and prove that there's some benefit to doing what we did.
The administrative staff played a key role in the WIG process by what we normally do, which is promote, support, coordinate. We had WIG banners displayed prominently in all of our locations so that everyone could learn what the WIG was and remember that. One of our challenges was that we had 19 scoreboards throughout our locations, and updating those on a regular basis was tricky, and tweaking them a bit till we knew we had the right data that was easy to understand. After about 4 rounds of that, we got that down, and just making sure the scoreboards were visible to everyone in conference rooms, that the data was where it needed to be, and all of that being in place helped lend to the cadence of accountability at all those meetings for follow-up and making sure that everything was going as planned.
As we considered possible outcomes for our WIG, we recognize the opportunity to improve reliability within the department. Reliability is defined as the ability of a first due fire company to respond to an incident in what is considered their response area, the area closest to their fire station. Prior to the implementation of the WIG, for the department we were somewhere in the 60% range. Following the implementation of the WIG during the period of operation that we followed the stats, we saw an improvement of over 5%. What that equates to is it means that the closest company is truly covering the area that they should be, and that the response is coming from the closest fire unit. That obviously provides a better service to the citizens. And as you heard earlier, anecdotally, there is evidence that this was the case as we had our crews out there following the WIG and finding opportunities to put themselves in service. In the future, what we need to do is sustain that and look for opportunities to further improve our reliability and the response times in the town of Gilbert.
We just completed about 5 months of arduous focus on a wildly important goal. And as a department, we've never become focused. We have a main issue and a mission that we follow very well, and we go when the lights come on. We're very reactive, and that's the process of the fire service in general, very reactive. We got on the front end of a goal that we think would help us operationally, and as an organization to participate with all hands, all of the support as well as the operational personnel, combining to make a goal our focus. We used Franklin Covey as the tool, and it's a great tool. It's got the disciplines of execution, and I think as we talk about focus on the wildly important, as an organization we all did, you had a chance to hear all of the divisions talk about their contributions to this wildly important goal. We acted on lead measures. We didn't, whereas in a reactionary kind of a process, you look at the back end, we watched the front end of all of our practices to make that work. Our goal was to reduce our out-of-service time by 10% by June 30th. And as we worked to do that, all hands turned towards that. All of our administrative personnel worked to keep our troops in service. All of our training personnel created schedules. All of our support personnel started delivering apparatus and doing things that they hadn't done before. They changed the behavior, they changed the culture to accomplish our goal. We accomplished our goal, 14.1%. Our goal was 10%. We had 793 hours of in-service time that we were able to capture and keep our trucks in service when they would have been otherwise out of service on other activities. A good portion of that savings came from our support personnel. We have an operational objective or goal that was influenced by all of our support, mostly, and that's incredible. That is incredible. We never could have predicted that. We had a notion or a thought that we were going to reduce response times as we went through this process. We didn't really affect our response times. What we did, in fact, and anecdotally you heard testimony of events where our trucks were in service and able to go on that call. But the calculation of response time is done by percentages, and that tends to roll off any events or anecdotal kinds of things. So Mrs. Smith number 2, the second call, was responded to by our troops. Not enough that it made a difference in our response time, but indeed, to Mrs. Smith number 2, it made a big difference. Now the big question is, if this is a behavior or a culture change, how do we keep that going? And how do we keep it part of our organization? You heard testimony again of how now this is just the way we do business. We're at a point where we can go ahead and have our next wildly important goal and do something that's going to help everybody to be focused again on a goal, to act on lead measures, to keep a compelling scorecard, and then counting it or having the metrics is a vital part of it, and create a cadence of accountability that allows us to watch how we're performing. And it's surprising how just that will cause everybody to work harder at the goal. And I know there will be a success. We're a better department. Our efforts have been recognized regionally and been copied. I think that indeed Gilbert can be very proud of not just the process but the outcome.